Well, this sat up while I went to lunch, and I just took the tape off. I think we're going to go ahead and try to get the outside black binding on now. So I'm going to start back up at the top. I'm pretty sure I've got enough to go all the way around, so I shouldn't have to worry about doing any joins. So starting at the top is not a bad thing. Black binding that I'm using is oversized. It's going to stick out the slot both ways, because I was trying to make the final size very close to the size that was on there, so it won't look too out of place. The one thing I did want to do before I went on was when I cut them with the router, it left a little bit of a oily streak. I don't think the tape was sticking to all that well. So I'm just giving it a light sanding right there on the end to help the tape stick down a little bit better. And one other thing I want to do is I want to go through and make sure I cleaned up any glue squeeze out on this side. For the most part, it's pretty good. What I've got here is my round X-Acto knife, and I'm just holding it against the blade up, just kind of knocking off anything that's in there. I think we're good to go. So I'll get the canopy glue back out. It's just a lot more of the same from the last time, so I probably won't film all of it like I did last time. Just show you that I'm getting started, because it's just going to be exactly what I did before, but again. Well, it was a whole lot more of the same, except for this time I put a clamp in the middle to pull the waist in. This way it should help keep this a little tighter. Just going to let this sit for quite a while and get everything good and set. Should be good after a little bit. Well, this has had plenty of time to sit, so I'm going to start taking the tape off. It does look really good so far. The part that I was always most worried about is the waist, and it looks pretty good. It's going to be hard to tell until we get it down to the same height as the top, because both pieces are tall. As soon as I get all the tape off here, we can start working on getting it down to size. Well, I've got all the tape off, and now what I'm going to do, I think, is take the finger plane and work down the binding. Since it's tall, I can take a fairly big bite. And also because it's plastic, I can take a fairly big bite. And I'm not too worried about it. Quite a bit of height to take off yet. I'm not real sure what the best way to go about it is. I'll try a couple different ways. We'll see what I decide on. So I'm still working on this. I got the most, or the bulk of it taken off with the chisel. And now what I'm doing is I've actually got a razor blade here, and I'm kind of taking a page out of old Randy Chardiger's book, and I've kind of beveled the sharp part over. There's a good word for this, but I can't think of what it is. But I've basically made this little razor blade into a scraper, so now it cuts better than it usually would on the pole, and this way I can knock off any extra height really easily. And I'm okay with taking just a little bit of the wood. These sides are still pretty rough, so they still need cleaned up, and this does that a little bit as well. Burnish. I've burnished the blade. Jerry has a burnishing tool, but I don't know where it is. So I just used this clamp. This was hard enough that it moved the blade over into a better scraper. So this way I can get this binding brought down perfectly flush. We're just about there. I've even been using the same thing on the top as I get closer to the actual top. I've still got quite a way to go. So I'm pretty happy with this so far. It's feeling pretty good, and I think I'm just about ready to start fitting the neck back to it. I've done a little bit of work on the neck off camera, getting the fretboard cleaned up. Right now the fretboard's just taped to it, so I got an idea about where it's going to be. But I've been cleaning the neck up, and it's looking really good. For me to get the neck angle set, I am going to want a new bridge, and since this didn't come with one, I'm having to make one, and this is as far as I've gotten so far, and it's looking pretty good. It's starting to look like a guitar. So I really need to get the straight edge out and start getting an idea about where I'm going to want this, and maybe it would make sense to fret the board so I can get a little bit closer on neck angle and lower the frets are. I think what I'll actually do is wait until Jerry gets back from lunch and kind of run it over with him, see what he thinks. So we'll see where we go from here. So I talked to Jerry about this, and he's given me a little bit of guidance on where to go from here. Basically, we talked about where the neck angle should be for this guitar going in. What we really decided was the neck angle was probably pretty good in the guitar before I took it out. The problem was that the neck was loose, so it had to come out. On top of the neck being loose glue-wise, it had some shims in there that I had taken out, and so I needed to replace them. So I actually have gone ahead and replaced them. You can see how much lighter this is. It's little really thin strips of mahogany, and I've already started working on getting this neck totally fit in here. And what I do to do that is take a piece of carbon paper. So you take the carbon paper, you put it on the side of the neck, and then when you put the neck in, push it down, kind of wiggle it around. When you pull it out, it leaves a mark on the high spots. And there's not much left for me to get because it's sitting pretty close. There might just be one or two more spots I need to get it totally flush. There's maybe one little spot there. I'm just going to take the chisel, just work a little bit off. It's not really dark, it's just a little bit darker. I'll keep doing this until I get it totally flush. Well, since I'm happy with the way the neck's fitting to the body, I'm going to go ahead and glue the fretboard on. I think it'll just be easier to do it now. I've got two little nails put in to the neck. There's one here and one here. I don't know how well you can see them, but I drove them in just a little ways and then cut them off just barely above where the fretboard will be. I'm going to use those to index the fretboards. The first thing I'll do is get the fretboard good and aligned. Kind of press in on it to leave a mark. And then what I'll do is I'll get a really small drill bit and drill this out just a little bit so that it drops onto the nail and then won't allow the fretboard to move around once there's glue on. So I'm over at Jerry's neck clamping jig. It just helps to get it up off of the table so I can get clamps underneath it real easy. I'm getting ready to put glue on this. I've got the fretboard sitting right here.
The other night I woke up from a dream. This dream to me so real it seemed. And in this dream I came upon a man who left no footprints in the sand. Dressed all in white, we walked along the way. For those in need, we'd often stop and pray. Our journey guided only by the night, and yet we walked as if there was a light. Then he said, walk the straight and narrow every day. Then he said, head straight toward the light and never stray. Then he said, lend a helping hand along the way. Then he said, find the love of God on Judgment Day.
Well, I've got this glued up, and I'm just doing my final cleaning up. Clean up all the squeeze out. I'm going to let this set up for quite a while, because I want this to be very good and set. Alright, since I got the fretboard glued on this neck, oh geez, I'm going to go ahead and glue it in. You can see it fits real well, because I had a hard time getting it out. I've got a couple of clamps set ready. Just get some glue all over here and some on the extension as well. We'll glue that all down, all in one good go.
Not one of us on earth can understand just how our life fits in the Master's plan. We must learn to lend a hand along the way, so we may find the love of God on Judgment Day. Then he said, walk the straight and narrow every day. he said, head straight toward the light and never stray. Then he said, lend a helping hand along the way. Then he said, find the love of God on Judgment Day.
So this neck sat clamped up over the weekend, and you can probably tell I'm getting this ready for finish because I'm pretty sure we're at that point. I've got the fretboard taped up, and I went ahead and filled the old end pin hole with a dowel, and it's tapered so it fits in there real good. I glued it in, and now we've got the screw on to hang this, so I can start putting some finish on here, and I think that's what we'll do. So the next time you'll see this, it should have some finish. It has been quite a while since I've filmed anything on this little Martin, and I gotta say, it's looking really good, and it's actually feeling pretty good. It's really pretty smooth. I'm wet sanding with 600 right now, and I've got quite a bit of soap in the water. It helps with this True Oil quite a bit. It is looking really good, I think. The sides are okay. The top is far more impressive at this point. And I'm just wet sanding to see. I think I'm basically done with the top, and I'm not going to focus on it too much when it comes to putting on anymore. Pretty much, yeah, virtually totally smooth, nothing there. I'll take a clean cloth and make sure that I don't have any differences, but I think it's looking really good. There's just still a couple of spots where it's a little almost orange peel-y. I think I'm going to hit them again, but I just thought I'd give you a little update, and I'll show you the back as well. It's coming along. I don't know how well you can see. Probably cannot very well. It's not too bad, but it's coming along. We're gonna get it before too long now. I'll keep working on this, and hopefully sometime soon I'll get it wrapped up. So I'm back to work on this Martin 0018, and I'm real happy with the finish actually. So I'm moving on. I was talking to Jerry, and the next thing I need to do really is place the bridge, more or less. But to do that, I have to have tuners, and we didn't have any. If you remember, this thing came in, and it didn't have anything. We ordered some tuners, so here's one. There's some more sitting around here. First thing I did was put ferrules in. I think this is the ferrule that came out of this, and it's just a little tiny thing. The ferrules that came with the tuners are these hexagon ones. And I didn't really like putting those in there when that's not really what was in there. And the old ones aren't big enough around for the new tuners. So I found some of these round ones in our spare parts. Somebody had sent those at some point, and they matched the color real good of these tuners. So these are going to look real good in here, I think. I already gone ahead and got all the ferrules in. So we got 6 ferrules in. I think it's looking really good. I think it looks like it was supposed to. So the next thing I'll have to do is I'll have to re-drill holes for screws for the tuners. We'll do that on the flip side of this. And I guess we'll get ready to do that now. So I've got the tuners in here now, and something I realized fairly quickly was I can't just put a straight edge on these and line them up because the center tuner is actually in just a little bit. So what I'll have to do is kind of make sure they're straight to the edge of the headstock. The old holes are actually still pretty visible because I didn't put any color on any of this. This is all the natural color of the wood. I can see the old holes pretty well, and they line up pretty much where they should be. So I'll probably just use the old holes as reference for the most part, get it looking good, and then I'm just going to mark them with the awl, and then I'll come back and drill them. So basically, since I have to reference this off the side, I can do these one at a time, and I'm not too worried about the other ones while I do it. Alright, so I've got all my holes marked. What I'll do now is I will get a good sized drill bit for these screws. Here's the screws. And I'm going to actually go ahead and go get the wax, so I'll come back, we'll drill the holes, we'll wax the screws, we'll install everything right here. I think I'm all set up to do this. I've got a stop piece of tape on my drill bit so I know when to stop. Check the drill bit against the screw. by holding up the screw to the bit, and if I could see threads behind but not the center part, I knew it was good, and we're good.
He said, walk the straight and narrow every day. Then he said, head straight toward the light and never astray. Then he said, lend a helping hand along the way. Then he said, find the love of God on Judgment Day.
Well, you can see here I am getting ready to place the bridge more or less and the saddle. I've got the temporary tailpiece on and the 2 outside strings on so I can get it intonated properly. What I need to do now is get this up to pitch. So I'll go ahead and take care of getting it up to pitch, and I'll bring you back then. So I've got this up to pitch now. Pretty close. Flat means the saddle is just a little too far back. So that's intonating right on. So the saddle's in the right spot. Now I just got to make sure that the bridge is in the right place, left to right. Make sure it's square to the center. And then I can mark where the saddle is on the bridge and where the bridge is on the top. And go from there. So I'm going to take a minute and do some measurements. Measure from the outside of the wing to the outside of the guitar. Make sure the bridge is where it's supposed to be. And then we'll go from there. So I've got this looking good. I'm pretty sure it's nice and square, and the angle's looking pretty good. I think I'm actually going to leave this set for just a little while with the strings up to tension, let them get kind of stretched out, and then we'll check this again after a little bit just to make sure it's still all where I want it to be, and then that's when we'll mark it. But for now, that's what it looks like. So I've been looking at this for a while and getting measurements and making sure everything's equal. I had Jerry come look at it, make a few little adjustments, and I think it's looking really good. So I'm going to mark the saddle now with this really fine mechanical pencil, and I'll mark the front of the saddle. That's the most important spot. I'm also going to mark around the bridge now, so I know where the finish has to come off for the bridge to go. For that, I'm going to get a new sharp blade and just score the finish around the bridge. So I've got a brand new pointed end scalpel blade. I'm going to score the finish around the bridge and not move the bridge. I'm going to start with some really light strokes. I'm basically not putting any pressure down on the blade, just setting it on the surface and running it along the bridge. And you've got to keep this slightly turned towards the bridge. If it's turned away from the bridge, you're just going to run out into the finish. And you really don't want to do that. And it'll do it real easy because these are really sharp. A little bit of a task to keep control. I actually think I'm probably good, having scored all the way around it at this point. I really want to be sure that I get all the way around it, so I have a nice solid line to remove finish to. But I think it's probably good. I've got the saddle marked, I've got all the way around the bridge marked. I should be good to more or less take the strings off here and move on from here. So I can either route the saddle slot at this point, or I can work on taking the finish off the top. It doesn't really matter which way I do it, but I think I'm going to start with this. it makes a big mess, so I'll do it first. I don't know how well you can see the outline of the bridge. I think you can kind of see it. I'm just going to be removing the finish where that bridge was. About all set up to do this bridge route now, right for the saddle. I'm pretty happy with the way it's looking. I've just got the bridge CA glued down to the board. Basically there's painter's tape on the back of the bridge and then some super glue and then some more painter's tape, so it'll come off a little easier, but it won't move. Everything's set up. I think I'm good to go. I'm going to do a fairly light pass on the first one. Here we go. Because the bridge itself is kind of arched, it's not the same depth from the top all the way across. Because if we cut it across to flat, and the bottom of the slot will be flat, so the saddle will sit in it well. We're only about 65 thousandths deep in the center, less than that out on the ends. So I got a ways to go. I'll lower the bit. I'm not going to worry about measuring it too much right now because I've got a ways to go. When I get closer to the depth of the cut that I want, then I'll be real careful with the measurements. I am just about ready to glue this bridge on here. The one thing I did that I didn't show was I drilled the holes in for the pins. I used something kind of like this just as a guide, and then I made the design on the computer so I knew all the holes were equally distant apart, and I just double stick taped it to the top, drilled the holes, and then peeled it off. This isn't the one that this was, but anyways, that way the holes all line up real good. I think I'm ready to glue this on here. I just wiped the back down with some thinner so it shouldn't have any of the oils on it. I've got a caul on the inside just waiting for me. I'm going to open some clamps up. With the bridge on here, I've been working on this, trying to get this ready to go. So I've got the saddle fitting pretty well. I got an all new set of bridge pins in here. I've got an end pin ready, but it's not in yet. I'm working on stringing this up. Once I get the strings on here, I can have an idea how it's set and what I need to do to get it set up best.
My friends, it's time to do the final inspection on a guitar that's been in here entirely too long. This is a guitar that Caleb worked on, and I'm going to show you what the top of this guitar looked like before I show you the finished product. It's an amazing transformation. Before I show you the top, Bill Monroe had a famous quote, and I don't know the exact quote, but it was something very much like, "That ain't no part of nothing." I think he was mad about a song or something and somebody was playing the wrong part or whatever, and he said, that ain't no part of nothing. Well, that's the way I feel about this top here. It ain't no part of nothing. It ain't no part of nothing for a couple of reasons. You can look at it. This is the way it came in. But, and you look at it at first and you think, well, you could probably clean that up and make it look better. No, it's really bad. When you start looking at it really close, you start seeing how busted up it is, and it's just broken in big chunks and it's just a mess. It's just really a mess. And here's the part that ain't no part of nothing right here. Let me just do a public service announcement right now. Anytime you feel the urge to glue some strange piece of wood up inside your guitar, and here's personal experience. I've seen baby bed rails glued up inside there. I've seen wall paneling off the walls. I've seen just miscellaneous pieces of wood in various and sundry shapes like this. I've seen toothpicks. I've seen popsicle sticks. You name it, I've seen it glued inside your guitar. Just remember this. This is a public service announcement for you out there who are thinking about doing that. Just remember Bill Monroe's quote, that ain't no part of nothing. And it don't belong in there. So don't glue crap like this up inside your guitar, because what do you possibly think you're helping? It ain't helping nothing, because it ain't no part of nothing. Yeah, this thing was in really horrendously bad shape. It just was bad, and it just needed to go someplace else. Yeah. I mean, we could have put another Band-Aid on it, and it just would have been another Band-Aid on top of really poorly done Band-Aids. That's the problem. Had those things been done professionally, it wouldn't have been quite so bad. But no, they weren't, and there was glue everywhere, and the wrong kinds of glue, and just crap. It was just a mess. So here's the new top. And the first thing you'll notice is the line going across there. It draws your eye right to it. This piece of wood came in the shop, and it was the exact right size for this guitar top. So we knew it had some curl in it like that, but we decided to go ahead and use it. Well, we didn't know until we got into it too far that this dark line was going to show up. We already had too much time and money invested in it to just turn around and go the other way. So we called the customer, and I called the customer, and I asked him, I said, we can start over, and it'll just take a long time, and we'll get it done though, and we'll put a better piece of wood in there, and we'll bill you at the full rate, and just like we had started from scratch, like I wasn't going to penalize him because we had this problem. Or the other option would be that I'll give you a 50% discount on the whole charge of this thing if you just accept it the way it is. And after looking at it, he decided to accept it the way it is. And it really isn't horrible at all. It really doesn't look terrible. It's a shame it happened on a Martin guitar that we have that piece of wood. But on the other hand, it's a nice piece of wood. It's a quality piece of wood. It just happens to have Mother Nature's fingerprint on it, That's kind of the way it is. You can't fix everything. This guitar, honestly, for the setup, though, has been given Caleb fits. He's on vacation this week. So I took it off his desk and I worked on it this morning. What I did this morning, and I didn't film it, I'll just tell you. I cut the bridge down a little bit more. The bridge was a little tall. I cut it down and I cut some grooves in here to get some more angle to this saddle. The saddle I cut down another 30 thousandths. I've got the action at 90 thousandths all the way across here. I cut this E string down a little bit more up here. It was a little high. I also leveled the frets in this area because they weren't perfectly level. So anyway, I did quite a bit of setup work on it in detail. I feel like it's just about as perfect as it can be now. And we are just about ready to send it back to the customer. By the way, I also checked the intonation, and you can probably see that I filed the E string, this big E string, back further because it was sharp. It now intonates perfectly now. Let's play it for you and let you hear what it sounds like. Okay, I just checked the tuning real quick there just to be sure that it was still good. It's pretty darn good. Listen to the sound of this. it's got a pretty nice sound. I think it's a little bit muted sounding, but that's mostly probably because of the newer finish. I think over time, as that finish hardens up, dries out, it's going to be really nice. It's going to be hard to beat. Overall, it's a very nicely put together guitar, and I think Caleb did a real nice job replacing and building that top for this guitar. It certainly beats this one, which ain't no part of nothing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and click that thumbs up if you would. Thank you.